Welcome to the most important thing. I'm Danielle.
And I'm Greg, and together we're fighting household sickness.
Haha, indeed we are.
Yeah.
So far,
No,
I'm the only one that's winning.
it's a battle. You are winning, and
I'm staying strong. Lots of
it's
vitamins.
this fall season, right? Like all the things.
Yeah, Maverick has been sick every weekend since he started school.
Yep. Anyway, we are exploring together family leadership and how we build culture at home.
Indeed we are.
Yeah, this is fun.
Yeah, so today we have a bit of a topsy-turvy episode for you.
hmm Let me lead us in. Okay. So, what do you do when your son says to you, I am going to Legoland for my fourth birthday and I'm going to ride all the roller coasters? And you measure him and he is 1 inch shy of the height requirement of 42 inches. What do you do?
Do you play the goody two-shoes family and say, oh, sorry, buddy, not this year, hopefully when you're 5?
Yeah. Or do you show up and hope for the best? Come on, please let him ride. I'm sure it'll work this time.
Yeah, hoping for goodness and humanity by workers that have absolutely no power and authority over that limit.
Right.
Or do you find the absolute highest shoes that Amazon can buy and stick them on him so that he meets that 42-inch height requirement that day?
That is door number 3, and that's the one we're going to be exploring today, which is called Trickster energy.
Yeah, it's something about. So, when we talk about trickster energy, what we really mean is how to be creative and maintain our agency when we are stuck in a problem. That's not really a rigidly required rule, right?
Yeah.
But something that can be navigated around.
Yes.
How to do that creatively as a family. I think that the trick here and the reason why we wanted to talk about it is because it's really easy to, like, if Trickster is the ideal kind of in the center where things are optimally balanced. On the one hand, there's me and the way that I grew up, which is like abiding by every rule no matter what, and almost building like resentment towards the man or
Right.
towards because they wouldn't give you what you want, right? But then on the other hand, which is something that we've fallen into more recently as we have talked about trickster energy as a family, is daddy says I can't do cartwheels in my room. I'm going to use trickster energy and do it anyway. Just, needlessly rule breaking, if you will,
Yeah.
which is not trickster energy,
No.
right? What we're really talking about today is playfully and creatively changing that feeling of helplessness, that feeling of stuckness that we can get when we can't find a logical solution to a problem, and turning it into something that is creative and maybe temporarily sets aside some of our values, but is in service to growth ultimately.
For sure. So this is a tough one to explain to the kids. It's a tough one to explain to ourselves. But we want to do an episode on it because of exactly that, right? Because
Yeah.
it's so important to get out of our goody two shoes selves at a young age and notice that the world around us may not always cooperate with the way that we see things. And that doesn't mean that we're necessarily wrong.
Yeah. It's also a conversation that we really needed to have as a family because otherwise Hunter would be yelling at the top of her lungs about our little sneaky rule breaking things like sneaking water bottles into FAU basketball games. We cannot have for all of eternity our child as whistleblower when we are trying to leverage trickster energy, right? So we
Yeah.
need to share it and really name it. It's an important conversation to have with all of our kids because there are going to be times where mommy and daddy break the quote unquote rules, and teaching them to trust their inner knowing around what is a really important rule for safety versus what is some arbitrary rule that folks came up with to keep peace among the masses.
Yeah. Or just draw a line in the sand, like 42 inches on the roller coaster.
Right.
Right. And so, what do we want to explore in today's episode, and what are we going to try to get out of this by the end?
Yeah, I think that the way we think about trickster energy is that the goal is to maintain agency and creativity when it comes to problem solving, to be able to think outside the box. And so takeaways really are around learning to trust ourselves in the moment of helplessness. And then once we kind of shift into that mindset and say, okay, I'm going to work to get unstuck creatively, it's learning to play with the problem. And I think the beauty of playing with the problem is that when we do it as a family and we have group buy-in, it's extremely bonding.
Yes, it is. And we all have to be aligned for this to really work anyway. Otherwise, the weakest link is going to break us down and we're going to end up in,
shout it from the rooftops that we have water bottles.
Right. We're going to end up with no water bottles. We'll be in the back of the line. We'll have parked in the far parking lot, all the things that we kind of finagle our way into making life a little bit more convenient. We're going to, those are not going to work for us if everyone's not on the same page.
Yeah. And so I think maybe we can quickly define trickster, which is a trickster itself is a dishonest person who uses clever means to cheat others out of something of value. And so, I don't think that we're trying to teach dishonesty here, right? But we are trying to tap into that trickster energy sometimes in order to cleverly pursue our goals.
Yep, exactly. I wrote a couple things down here too. The trickster is a symbol of the duality within us all, reflecting the tension between our conscious and unconscious minds.
Ooh, yes.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, and so a lot of these ideas that we're pulling from, just to give you kind of the research backing, really do come from Jungian psychology and mythology.
Yeah.
As I've mentioned on previous episodes, my favorite Jungian psychologist is named Lisa Marchiano, and she wrote a book called The Vital Spark, in which she talks about trickster energy.
Mm-hmm. To expand on this duality and the conscious and unconscious mind, the trickster represents the ongoing struggle between order and chaos.
Mm-hmm.
And it reminds us that growth often requires the destruction of old patterns.
Yes.
So I love that because old patterns are not always going to serve us in the future. And in order to bring this trickster energy to the table, we need to push away that old energy that says you must, you can't fight the man on this topic. And sometimes we grow more believability where we're able to fight the man on that topic, or we're able to show up with new information, or the world changes. And something about the world that changes means that the rules that were set 5 years ago no longer necessarily apply, but they haven't been updated.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. I think there's also a piece of trickster energy that is a little bit about envy, in the sense that sometimes we can recognize others acting with trickster energy and they make us uncomfortable.
Sure.
Because we can think like, oh, they took the easy way out. Right? But really and I think that's the way that I have felt many a time, because I've been unwilling to tap into that myself.
Yeah.
And so earlier we had said, in an earlier episode, we had said that Carl Jung has this beautiful quote, is that understanding the darkness in ourselves helps us understand the darkness in others. And I think it's so important that we kind of bring this into the light, because it's not that big of a deal. And once we get comfortable with subverting the rules when the stakes aren't that high and it ultimately serves us, it just brings a much more playful nature to life.
Absolutely.
Can I give you an example?
For sure.
Okay, so just to finish the story, by the way, we did go to Legoland for Maverick's birthday. Mommy did find super high shoes, and he was able to ride all the rides, right?
Yeah.
One of which was this sweet roller coaster, our favorite of the day, called the Great Lego Race. And it just happened that we were on a day where there were almost no lines. And so we rode the coaster multiple times, me and the girls and you and Maverick, right? And the second time we went on and we were going to ride the third, there was no one in line, but there was an attendant about 20 feet away after we got off the coaster for the second time. And I looked at the line and I looked at the attendant. And I was like, man, we can just hop this line. No problem. Like, we can just go from the exit. We can skip the entrance, skip all the rails, and just get back in line. No problem. There's nobody here. But I was afraid. And I was afraid to, I don't know what I was afraid of, but my goody two shoes took over, and I looked at the attendant and I was like, can we go through? And of course she was like, no, you're not really supposed to, and wagged her finger. But you guys, I totally could have just gone through, and my kids could have just gone through with me.
Of
Do you know
course.
what I mean? And I know that's what you would have done.
Yeah.
And so there's still this something that is inside of me that like is so afraid of rules that even when I see a rule where there is no downside to breaking it and some upside to breaking it, right? I oftentimes just like hesitate and don't trust myself.
Mhm.
And I think it's so important for me, growth as a human, but also as a mom, to just own that and just be like, you know what? No, like there's no reason why I need to take the couple extra minutes to go all the way outside of the ride and then follow all of the guardrails back in. Hunter, Jade, let's just hop over the fence.
Yeah.
I want to be that person. I want to
Well,
be that person.
like no progress happens by following the rules. And if there's a rule that
Interesting.
we disagree with, it is our job almost to test that rule and see what happens, right? So like I just think of everything from the Underground Railroad to like Travis Kalanick and Uber. Like all about like these are they're terrible that those are in the same sentence, but they really are. Like
Sure.
Uber testing New York City and just deploying drivers in cars without talking to the TLC to see what happens, to have ride shares,
TLC being the taxi medallion
the
system.
delivery company, right? Like that, and doing that in every city, like that is how we now have Uber like as the default. And also Uber hailing lifts to compete so that Lyft wouldn't be in the places where Uber was. That's like some serious trickster energy there.
Yeah, absolutely. At first I'm like, no progress gets made without breaking the rules, but I hear what you're saying. I think also that sometimes in breaking the rules, it really broadens our understanding of what's possible,
For sure.
right?
Yeah. I mean, we talked about it a little bit this weekend at family meeting where with the kids, okay, what are the rules that apply in the universe? It's just what nature confines us to, right? It's the laws of physics. And so a favorite quote by Elon Musk that says, "The only rules are those dictated by the laws of physics. Everything else is a recommendation." And so I love this because questioning everything and thinking of it as a recommendation, and then if you know anything about Elon's algorithm, where he goes and requires his staff to find the person that made the requirement in the government, the actual person, not the department, to poll for believability right down to that individual to see why that rule was made and if they can do something about it. That is what trickster energy is all about. It's not about tricking people into doing something that serves you. It's about questioning everything until you get the answer that you really need, which is, can I do this or can I not?
And sometimes I think the answer is within yourself. Like Elon Musk companies aside,
Sure.
going back to my example of the like deferring to the attendant on the roller coaster ride, it's the same idea as Maverick being 42 inches and why we couldn't go with this hope and this dream that they'll let him ride the ride because he's 41 inches. Because these people, they don't have the power to say anything other than what is in the rules, right? Yeah. And so if I am giving my power away to someone who has so little power, right? What does that say about me? What does that say about who I'm willing to give my power over to, which is such a common theme for me? I think that this idea of who actually holds the power in the situation when you have a problem to solve is such an important one. And whether or not the person that you're talking with is really able to change things or not.
Yeah.
So in going back to this idea of envy and me seeing trickster energy in others and thinking that they took this easy way out, I do really think that by exploring the darker side and doing things that make me uncomfortable, which you usually lead me to in this way, I'm saying to myself, like, I see that ability to be playful and kind of color outside the lines and do something that's a little bit deviating from the norm, right? Yeah. And saying, I can contain you. This is not going to get out of control and I'm going to become some social deviant, right?
Right.
This is saying, I am allowed, and I want my children to know that they are allowed to do things that's a little bit off the beaten path, off the straight and narrow, and still be a good person and
Yeah.
still be. And I think that that is
And
the
try to make
real.
change. And like, if you're going to make any change in the world, you need to have this skill honed and be able to, to really deploy it where
Yeah.
necessary.
It's amazing to me. Like, I didn't know when we started this path around things like shrewdness and anger and this darker side or murkier side of family culture. So much of this stuff is in service of growth and in service of change, not
Totally.
just inside of our home, but big change,
Yeah.
right? And so harnessing these energies, I think, can be so powerful. And I didn't necessarily know that that was going to be the case. I thought that it was going to be more about just learning to contain them, if you will. And I think that that generally can be the first step, right? But that the second step is that they are used to in service of growth.
Completely.
And that's really cool.
It is really
That's
cool.
really cool. And sometimes trickster energy can get you to a place that excellence never could.
Well, and when you think about the traits of an entrepreneur, this is typically one of them. We call it relentlessly resourceful, but really, if you look back at the early childhood of a lot of entrepreneurs, it's coloring outside of the lines. It's doing things
Absolutely.
it's doing things anyway, even though people told you not to do them. And that's really what kind of makes for an entrepreneur in today's society.
I love that. And it is something that I think is so important. If you guys haven't noticed, we've kind of flipped the experimentation, if you will, to we're actually starting to talk to the kids and experiment with the topics before we get on the mic.
Yeah.
Which has been fun too. But yeah, I just think that
I
it's
think
such
we're just workshopping topics and seeing, how it shows up in our family.
exactly. It's been such an important piece of the puzzle because I certainly love to play by the rules and can get in a huff seeing people not playing by the rules. And I don't think that that is really in service to my growth.
Yeah.
And I want to teach our children to be more playful about it.
It's so important that our kids and we embody this throughout our lives and name it, because this is not mischievous. This is not being, a troublemaker. This is showing up when change is needed or when you believe that there's an opportunity to make change and make a difference.
Yeah.
And it's not like talking out of turn in school. It's not like, pushing kids on the playground because you didn't get your way. Like, there are ways to handle this, and naming this energy often with our families is so important because we want to make sure that they get this message, that this is the type of energy that can be okay, even if it's not necessarily following the rules.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I think key to this conversation is that trickster energy must be guided by a moral compass.
Bingo.
Right? And we are teaching our family to be discerning, to be shrewd, right?
Yeah.
In trusting when our trickster energy is really involving temporarily placing aside a value in service of growth.
Yeah. So one thing I just want to bring up is we don't have experience with this. I wonder how too much trickster energy in a family can be walked back a little bit to point out where it's valuable and where it is too much. Because I do believe that you can over-index on this as a child, especially like a firstborn that colors outside of the lines like I was. So I'm just wondering, we're not having this problem in our family?
I disagree.
Yeah?
I think we are having this problem with Maverick.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, he lies a lot. And it's been hard to figure out what his lying is in service of, and because you told me every night when you say goodnight, he says X hurts.
Something hurts.
Leg, throat,
Stomach.
whatever it is. Yeah. Right? And that's like a need for attention. And
it's almost like a tick at this point. It's
well,
weird.
He's also a little obsessive about things. Yeah. So I think that he is our child that is willing to create mischief and doesn't have a problem with not telling the truth.
Yeah.
Which is new for me because the girls, they don't do that. And so it goes back to this moral compass piece where it's like, my love, you need to know that you are safe here. And that if you want more time with me, you can tell me. You don't need to pretend like you have some type of ache or you need medicine in order for us to spend time together. Like that is an example of a rule that like shouldn't be broken.
For
That's
sure.
an
And this is
that's a
exactly what I'm
respect
talking
thing.
about. This is exactly what I'm talking about because it can get really confusing, especially if you think everything is in service of a need that you have. It can get really confusing as a child. Like I was confused in first grade and I was set straight pretty quickly that I cannot counterfeit classroom dollars
I remember you telling me that.
in
Yeah, it
order
stuck with
to
you.
yeah, it's still stuck with me. I counterfeited like the teacher's currency, which allowed for some kind of prize or something like that. And I was like, oh, I'm going to go home. I'm going to make these and then I'm going to cash them in. And she called in my parents and that was an important lesson that stuck with me, which like these were rules that I was not to break.
Can I ask you about that? Do you feel like did you feel guilt about that or did you feel shame?
So I felt guilt about not about counterfeiting them, but about saying that I got them from her. So when pressed, and she's like, "Where did you get those?" And I'm like, "From you." That's where the guilt hits.
Guilt or shame though? Like I made a mistake, I am a mistake.
Oh, guilt.
Guilt.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think that would have been a really big shame setup for me. So
Hmm.
I'm just maybe for another episode, but something to unpack as
Hmm.
to how you were able to not let that kind of seep into your identity.
Well, I think that I didn't want to be a person that counterfeited that tried to cheat the system unfairly against everybody and get caught and try to blame like a misunderstanding when I clearly should have just come clean.
Mm. So you feel like the creating of the counterfeit bills was innovative or
I mean,
like a
that's
clever
it's
move
more innocent than the
than lying to the teacher.
correct.
Got it. So that's where the line was drawn for you.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
makes sense.
And I remember that. That one really
That
stuck.
maybe you should have fessed up when she
Yeah.
asked you.
Actually, if if I think about it and I go back through all of the things that I feel badly about as a child,
Yeah.
it's the lying about the thing that I did. It's not actually about the thing that I did.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I like that
Some that I never came clean on
because the lie was believed.
because the lie was believed. Correct.
Hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, difference between getting what I want and using trickster energy to be a change agent,
Yes. Yes.
right?
Yes.
And that's what I want to drive home in this family.
Yeah.
I think trickster energy is a cooperative. It should not be an individual sport for a child.
Interesting. I like that. That's a good heuristic, I
Yeah.
think, that it's a team bonding activity.
Yes. And this family is a team and we will support the stress testing of whatever recommendation it is
Yeah.
and not just say, oh, you have to follow that because. And that is something that I can like solemnly swear I will uphold.
Great.
Is
You can spearhead.
is just saying, hey, let's go find out why that is. Because that's an important thing to know how to do,
Yes.
right? But if you're going to break that rule and not involve us and lie about it or be deceitful, that's no longer in this category of us as a team. That is a selfish act.
Yep. Okay. So we've talked about trickster energy as far as what it is
Mhm.
and what it's not. And I have two takeaways for how to really channel trickster energy.
Yeah.
And the first is learning to trust ourselves in the moment of helplessness. So when we feel really stuck inside of a problem, instead of being extremely helpless and maybe even resentful about woe is me, the world is as it is,
Yeah.
recognizing that as a moment to really tap into our power and open up our thinking, if
Sure.
you will. So recognizing that moment of helplessness and thinking, I can figure this out. And then the second is really learning to play with the problem. So if the first one is the self-trust and saying like, I can take care of myself, I can figure this out when the moment arises and we feel really stuck. Then the second is once we trust ourselves, we can get really creative and think about how to get playful here.
Mhm.
Right. And
Yeah.
through this, I think we're modeling so much of the more polished side that we talk about, right? Like courage and adaptability under any circumstances.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So resilience, if you will.
Resilience. I almost feel like there's a worksheet here that our kids can fill out, which is like, what's the thing? What does it bring up for me? What do you think this protects me against? Why is this here? Who do you think
Oh
made
my God,
this?
I don't like this worksheet.
Oh, really?
Yes, I don't want that worksheet.
Well, it's not for you. It's for our kids.
I know it's a lot though for our kids.
Yeah.
But I do think so. No
Well,
worksheets.
I don't love when one of our kids comes home and says, so and so is the leader of this game and I'm going to be the leader next, but you know what? They changed the rules the day before I was going to be the leader.
Yeah, but that's normal kid stuff.
I know, but I'm fine with the fact that the other child did it.
Yeah.
I don't want our child's response to be, okay, now I have to wait 2 more months until I can be the leader, because no, it's never going to happen. You didn't take away the right thing.
Yes, well, it's so interesting to me because a couple of years ago at the graduation ceremony for the kids, they described them all as animals. And Hunter was hardworking as a honeybee.
I remember.
Right? And so this child that you mentioned was clever as a crow. And I remember thinking to myself, damn, like if there's one thing that I really want to help Hunter cultivate by the time she's that kid's age, is I want her teachers to see her as clever as a crow.
Absolutely.
Like those are goals for me too. Like I
Yeah.
want to be clever as a crow, you know?
Yeah.
I don't even know that crows are clever, but whatever it is,
No,
it's like
sure.
clever being the descriptor is really valuable, I think. And
Yeah.
not to get too off on a tangent, but in the world of AI, cleverness is going to be king.
Way more than the hardworking. I mean, hardworking's very important. Don't get me wrong. But the cleverness and thinking outside the box,
Yeah.
that's
It's a really important aspect of character, right?
Yes.
It's a really important aspect of character.
yeah.
Okay. So, trickster energy, learn to trust yourself in the moment of helplessness.
Yep.
Which is definitely, I need to work on that. And learn to play with the problem. And then a couple of experiments for how to bring trickster energy into our family. The first one, I mean, these are almost always the same, right? It's model it ourselves, talk about it, and tell stories about it,
Yep.
right? So those are really the experiments. Model the playful problem solving. And I love what you had said about let's focus on trickster energy as a team. One, because we get all those bonding benefits of doing something a little bit, outside of the ordinary, outside of that straight and narrow together. But also because they really are still learning, right? I am too, but like the moral compass piece isn't necessarily fully online when you're 8, 6, and 4.
Yep.
Right? So let's lean into trickster energy when we're together. If you have a problem that you think you can solve creatively, great. Let's workshop it as a team.
Yeah. I love it.
Okay. And then the second one, tell stories of tricksters.
Yep.
Right? And so I can just think of a couple in like Disney kind of folklore would be Puss in Boots and the Mulan. I think Mulan is like the only Disney princess that I think is worth her salt, honestly, because she temporarily, she wanted to go to battle. Her father said she couldn't because she was a woman. So she temporarily put aside her values of love and respect and loyalty for her father, right? To impersonate a man and go to battle. So she disguised herself in war, not for rebellion, but in service of her growth and the growth of her clan.
Yep.
Right? And then Harriet Tubman and the Underground Railroad is also a beautiful story of, as we all know, of change and cleverness.
Yep.
Right?
Absolutely.
Talk about rules that were made to be broken.
For sure.
So I think that these, and I've seen, just in talking about anger with the girls around Taylor Swift taking back her music and stuff, they've talked about that in the past couple of weeks. Like they recognize that we can use anger to make change. And so I think that the power of story cannot be underestimated, especially when it comes in the family unit.
Completely.
Yeah.
So in closing, I just want everyone to do a quick visualization. So this is a complete metaphor, but the metaphor is so perfect because we've all been in this situation. So imagine you're waiting to get on the highway or off the highway. You're in an exit lane and a car cuts in front of you, and then another car, and then another car. And you see cars cutting in front up ahead. And now, this line is just backing up. And you're getting irate. You're just like, oh my God. Now, from your perspective, under what circumstance could you be one of those cars?
Yeah.
If you are showing up in a situation where you feel like you need to cut in for a reason and you feel that that is compelling enough, like don't always be the person that cuts in.
Right.
But if you're running late in a literal sense and it's an extremely urgent appointment or, it's a life-changing situation or whatever, but in another sense, if you're going to experience far more joy with your children by sneaking under that gate and getting right back in line.
If you really need to have a bag that weighs 60 pounds and not 50 pounds, go to the
Boom.
curbside check-in and give the guy a tip.
Exactly. Go to the curbs. So just like in life, we all have those moments where we're waiting patiently in the line, and we all have those moments where we need to be cutting in line. Let's make sure to use those chips, those bullets, where we need to be cutting in line, where those are upholding our values and the things that we believe in, and where we're not self-righteous about them, but where we believe that a change needs to be made.
Maybe we're righteous about them.
Maybe we're righteous.
Yeah. So it's about, when does it make sense to cut in line? Especially because I know you told the story from the person who's like sitting there waiting.
Yeah.
But so many people are on their phones these days, not paying any attention. And I know, having a husband that likes to cut in line often, that 9 times out of 10, nobody gets mad. Nobody even notices.
Yeah.
Because it's not that big of a deal.
It's not that big of a deal. That's right.
Cool.
So
we hope that you all will consider playing with the Trickster energy.
Yeah.
It has been so much fun, and it has made me feel lighter and less stuck.
Yeah.
And so I hope we can bring some of that lightness to all of you.
More Bugs Bunny, less Elmer Fudd.
Something like that. Love you, Goosey.
Love you, Goosey.
Hey guys, if you're still here, you're definitely our kind of person. Thanks for spending this time with us on the most important thing. If this episode resonated with you, we'd love for you to follow us wherever you get your podcasts and share it with someone else building family culture on purpose.